No, baby, that's for somebody else. We're just gonna keep you right where you're at right now.
Shut up, bastard! It doesn't matter what you think!
The Wrestling Realm presents Break It Down with Brian H.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a special episode of Break It Down with Brian H. right here in the Wrestling Realm. I had to go into the studio. Y'all may have checked out the first episode, which I did, the first part, which was the men's Mt Rushmore. Now I'm going to do the women's Mt Rushmore. It's very important. You know, we have to pay homage. You know, I posted on social media at Brian H. Waters, which you can follow me, and maybe follow the Wrestling Realm at Wrestling Realm. I posted about, I want to get to a point where we see 50-50 wrestling, where you can see 4 men's matches and 4 women's matches. Let's get the best stories. I also want to give a shout out to those wrestling girls. In particular, it was Queen PR who posted about that as well. You know, let's respect the equality of wrestling. You know, not so much as let's just put the women on the card so we have a women's match, but let's actually give the women these incredible stories, these things that you can get invested in. You look back at WrestleMania last year, biggest match. Survivor Series, biggest match. When you left SummerSlam, most talked about match. The Royal Rumble, biggest match. I mean, Bianca Belair wins the Royal Rumble at number 3. First black woman to win the Royal Rumble, which, because you knew going in, that was possibly leading us to Bianca and Sasha, first black women, main event in WrestleMania, at a time where, let's be real, if we can keep it 100, after the main event with Charlotte, Becky, and Ronda, it made you think, they might not do that again. Match wasn't the greatest, folks. Wasn't the worst, but it wasn't the greatest. It wasn't an instant classic. Sasha and Bianca made up for it. I might get some heat for that. But then you go in, like I said, going into SummerSlam. What happened? Unfortunately, Bianca lost the belt to a returning Becky Lynch, but that's what everybody left talking about. Yeah, people talked about Brock after Roman and Cena, but people was talking about Becky. People was mad. So we're going to put some respect, equality. We haven't had a full-fledged women's show. We've put the women in our shows, obviously, but we haven't had a full-fledged women's show right here on the Wrestling Realm, which we plan to do so soon. Also, definitely we'll get those wrestling girls on the show, on an episode. Miss Jenna B, me and her working on some things too. So just stay tuned. But today, we're going to talk about my women's Mt Rushmore. Now, there's no doubt, I'm a man. Just like the ladies have had crushes on the men's wrestlers, The Rock, Roman Reigns, etc. Men, we have crushes on women's wrestlers, and it's okay. Be respectful. But it isn't about that. This is about the wrestling, the people who I was emotionally attached to. When I watched them wrestle, they had me hooked. They had me rooting for them, their stories. Who was able to draw emotion? These 4 women were able to, really have me settled into the television, rooting for them, and really, to be honest with you, just like with the men, with my Mt Rushmore, getting upset when they lost. So here we go. Number 1, I'm going with the first for me. She's the first woman that I remember becoming a huge fan of, and that is the one and only Alundra Blaze, also known as Medusa. Alundra Blaze, during the 90s, was someone special. You know, 3-time WWE Women's Champion. I remember watching her win the title and then, you know, going to WrestleMania 10, defending it against Leilani Kai, I believe. And then also watching her lose to Bull Nakano and getting upset, like, oh my goodness, she lost the title. And then she gets it back. Then losing it to Bertha Faye. And then she gets it back. And then, you know, as Survivor Series 95, losing to Aja Kong. And you just knew, like, oh man, she's gonna lose the belt to Aja Kong. But creative didn't have nothing for her, brother. And then that's when she pulled the infamous move, going over to WCW, putting the belt in the trash can. I was glad they was able to repair that because she's no doubt a legend in this business. And she's on my Mount Rushmore because for me personally, like I said, she was my first favorite women's wrestler. So number one is Alundra Blaze. Now number two, somebody from the Attitude Era. And I'm not going to say I struggled, but I will say it could have easily been Sable. But if I'm being honest, I was more into Sable because of her looks. So I rooted for her and I always wanted her to win because I always wanted to see her on television. But my true person on the Mount Rushmore is my favorite women's wrestler of all time. And that is Miss Stratusfaction herself, Trish Stratus. Now, no doubt about it, what man didn't have a crush on her? But Trish did something. She reinvented herself. I got her DVD. One of the things she said, she put on pants for a reason. For obvious reasons, as opposed to wearing the shorts. We took her seriously as a wrestler. You know, you read the stories, you hear the podcast about, you know, she came in from the fitness world. And then as she came from the fitness world, she worked hard because she wanted to be taken seriously. And she was always doing the training. People like the great Jacqueline helped get her up to speed. You know, being in the main event with Lita on Monday Night Raw. Now it's always heard of, but back then it wasn't. Going toe-to-toe with Victoria in hardcore matches. And, you know, shout out to her. She was able to get out of the business, go have a family. You see her come back here and there. My dream match, I want to see it. Trish and Sasha Banks. But she's on my Mount Rushmore. Like I said, to me, she's the greatest women's wrestler of all time because no doubt about it, she is the total package. So, number three, there was no way I was not putting this lady on my list. She's a true vet in the game. Came in as a Funkadactyl. Just a tag team, you know, it could have easily been just flavor of the month. Somebody was just there. Okay, you did your time, moving on to somebody else. Now, a tag team partner was actually one of my favorites. It's also, but you know, it's a different story. And that is Naomi. You go back to 2017 when Naomi was on the chase for the women's championship. Now, let's go back because rumor and innuendo, they was ready to pull the trigger on her around WrestleMania 30, around 2015. But then she got injured. I believe she had an eye injury. I don't know if that's true. It just seemed like it would have been weird. AJ was on a huge run at the time. Not sure. Nonetheless, it seemed like everything was always getting her way. But then finally in 2017, she was able to rise above. She became women's champion. And then she got hurt in the match, had to relinquish the title. I think I may have been the only person who wasn't upset. Understanding stories and hype, I was kind of hoping she had lost that Elimination Chamber and rebounded and got the title at WrestleMania. It worked out. She was able to bounce back. Now that WrestleMania, I was there. I shed a tear. What was so amazing was, you know, we was thinking they were going to cut that match. This was probably the first of like that whole 5-hour WrestleMania. And we knew Taker and Roman was closing the show. Everybody else had matches. Triple H and Seth Rollins went too long. I will always say that. Like Brock and Goldberg was 8 minutes. It was cool. Boom, everything we wanted to be. But all the women rushed through their entrances, right? Now it made sense that this match was later because it was outside. And you had to have the night. You had to have at nighttime, right? You had to have, so you get that glow effect. Well, Naomi comes out there. She does her thing, and you know everybody's tense, wait and see what's going to happen. Boom! She gets the win, and Naomi's WWE champion, women's champion. I really wish they sold the glow belt. You know, that was a huge opportunity there, at least in the toys. Like, come on now. But yeah, and there's no doubt about it. Naomi had to go on my list. You know, like I said, just somebody like, you know, just being emotionally attached to. And the final person on my list, you dig in the archives, you will see that I wasn't always as big of a fan of hers as I am now. Not that I didn't like her. She was just, just another women's wrestler I liked. And I would root for the story as opposed to the person. And that is the boss, Sasha Banks. Now, I struggled. I did. I struggled with this one. Because I was either Sasha or Bianca, right? And I ultimately chose Sasha because for me, I was emotionally attached to her run in 2020 first, all right? And then eventually, and then I don't get this Bianca without Sasha. I look back at the pandemic. Now, mind you, like I said, the previous Sasha, she was cool, but when she came back, it was just like, boom, everything was firing on all cylinders. Her and Roman Reigns are two people that when they came back from their extended leaves, I liked them 20 times more. And when she came back, she beat up Natty. She had the blue hair. She was reinvented herself. And now, her match with Bayley, I know everybody in the world will tell you that her and Bayley at TakeOver was the greatest women's wrestling match or their favorite. Me personally, I love their match at Hell in a Cell. From the way they both came out, Sasha wearing all white, Bayley wearing all black, the brutality that they dished into each other, Sasha leaving and just having almost like tears because she just had to beat down her best friend who turned her back on her. After those two ladies alone, well, not alone, but they carried the WWE through the pandemic. That's why she had to get the edge. I look back and I'm like, man, she is a legend. No doubt, Hall of Famer. You look at what she's doing outside the ring, still having that balance, bringing forth women's wrestling, bringing forth awareness to WWE. She is a star. Her and Charlotte Flair, they are the airport tests. They're superstars. Bianca's there too. And she's there. I don't care what y'all say. She's there. But I put Sasha Banks on my Mt Rushmore. And like I said, these ladies are people who they gotten to the point when I see them on television, I stop what I'm doing and I'm always rooting for them. Always rooting. Take away the whole understanding the story. No, I want to see these women win every time. Just imagine a match with, Alundra Blaze and Trish Stratus. Sasha Banks and Alundra Blaze, Naomi and Alundra Blaze, Naomi and Trish Stratus. Man, endless possibilities. So, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you for tuning in to this episode of Break It Down with Brian H. A special episode right here in the Wrestling Wrealm studios. I had to go in the studio. I was like, I'm going to get up from the podcast chair and I'm going into the studio for this one because this is a big deal. And this is a big deal to me. Like I said, I love the Mt Rushmore conversations. And there's always, okay, you got to have a Mount. You can't have one without Flair. You can't have one without Hogan. You can't have one without this one. And at the end of the day, it's all objective. It's all on subjective or objective, whatever way you want to call it. It's your choice. And that's what I want to know. I don't care about the analytics and the professional Mt Rushmores. I want to know what's your choice. What's your personal Mt Rushmore? And let's critique it. Drop in the comments below. Let me know who your thoughts are. Let me know what you think of the list. If you disagree, go ahead. Tell me why. Because like I said, this is my choice. So remember, folks, you can get this shirt at WrestlingWrealm.com. You can go right there, buy this. We got a bunch of t-shirts there. We appreciate everybody. Shout out to those who go to buymeacoffee.com. That's just dropping, just want to support the show. We appreciate y'all. And make sure you subscribe. Hit the subscribe button down below right now. Turn on the bell notifications. So every time we drop a new episode, you're right there. We back. As we get ready for the holiday season, y'all be safe. Y'all make sure y'all treat everybody nice. Until the next time, I'm Brian H. Waters. Too sweet. Shout out to Hypno Beats on the music.